The Jerusalem Temple. Jesus sat at the temple treasury. This was a public area in the Jerusalem Temple where 13 collection chests were placed. These chests, called trumpets because of their flared openings, were made of metal and served various purposes, e.g., temple tax, money for incense, offerings for the poor. He did not simply pass by, but sat down opposite the chests, observing intentionally how the people made their offerings. This observation emphasizes that God looks not only at the offering, but also at the offerer and their heart. Due to the construction of the chests, the large and heavy coins of the rich, when dropped in, would create a resounding noise, attracting attention and perhaps the praise of those around them. The offering of the rich. Many rich people came. They dropped large sums of money, large amounts of money, into the chests. The money they offered came from their abundance, surplus money, a lot of remaining assets after the offering. Offering large sums in a noisy, public setting might have been related to showing off piety, wealth, or seeking respect from the crowd. Though the material amount was large, the personal sacrifice was small. The humble offering of the widow. A poor widow, one of the most vulnerable and needy classes in ancient Jewish society, came. She quietly put just 2 copper coins into the chest. Lepta were the smallest value coins in circulation. These 2 lepta were equal to only 1 quadrans, a Roman coin, or an estimated 1/64th to 1/100th of a normal laborer's daily wage. This was an extremely tiny sum, perhaps not enough to buy a basic meal. The absolute value of these 2 coins was insignificant, and perhaps they fell into the chest without making any noticeable sound. However, Jesus recognized a vital truth. It was all she had to live on. She gave everything, putting her life and future into this act of trust. The stark contrast between the noisy clanging of the surplus money and the humble silence of the 2 small coins was the premise for Jesus to deliver his revolutionary lesson. Jesus' judgment. After witnessing the rich and the widow making their offerings, Jesus made a revolutionary proclamation that completely changed the perspective on giving. Jesus called his disciples near, a deliberate action to ensure they focused and learned the important lesson, then pointed directly to the poor widow's act of offering. He stated a shocking truth that contradicted all human standards of evaluation. Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. In terms of material value, arithmetic, the widow's 2 coins were far less than the large sums given by the rich. However, in God's accounting, the widow was the one who gave the most. This, more, was not about quantity, but about the value of the sacrifice and the heart of dedication. Jesus shifted the criterion for evaluation from absolute quantity to relative proportion and the spirit of the giver. Jesus then clearly explained the basis for his extraordinary assessment, highlighting the fundamental difference in attitude and circumstance between the 2 groups of givers. For all those others put in gifts out of their abundance. The rich gave money from their surplus, from their excess and abundance, the portion remaining after all personal needs and comforts were secured. Their offering did not cause any lack, hardship, or inconvenience in their lives. They still retained their wealth and prosperity to continue living comfortably. This act was seen as an offering that might be conditional, not placing complete trust in the recipient. But she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. The widow gave from her poverty, from her lack, from her extreme destitution. She gave all she had to live on, her entire livelihood, all her possessions, her entire existence. This was an act of supreme sacrifice. She risked facing hunger and future uncertainty. This offering was a powerful testament to absolute faith and complete love for God, holding nothing back for herself. It was an unconditional giving. Jesus' judgment teaches a timeless lesson. The true value of a gift lies not in its weight but in the weight of the sacrifice it demands. The extraordinary meaning of the story. The story of the 2 small coins has become a great symbol in the Bible, not only for the act itself but also for the radical shift in the standard used to evaluate value. This is the core of the lesson Jesus wanted to convey, utterly rejecting a materialistic viewpoint, not quantity, but proportion. Jesus used an entirely new standard, the ratio of sacrifice. The value of the offering was not measured by the absolute amount, 2 coins compared to the mountain of money from the rich, but by the relative proportion compared to the giver's total possessions. The rich gave a small fraction from their abundance. The widow gave 100% of her assets. The widow's offering was the costliest offering, and thus it held the greatest value in the eyes of God. Complete dedication. The widow gave all she had to live on. This was an act of complete dedication, showing absolute commitment, holding nothing back for herself or for the future. It was a total surrender, an act of love and unlimited trust in God's provision. The widow's action is also a model lesson for the spiritual life, unwavering faith. The widow represents the person who gives in pure faith. She faced extreme poverty, but instead of keeping the last 2 coins for survival, she offered them. This action shows that she did not calculate based on her own ability but completely entrusted her life and destiny to God. Her faith overcame the fear and anxiety of the future. Humility and sincerity. Her offering took place quietly and discreetly. The 2 tiny coins made almost no sound compared to the noisy clanging of the rich people's money. She did not seek attention or praise from the crowd. It was this humility and sincerity that caused Jesus, the one who knows all hearts, to stop and publicly proclaim the greatness of her deed. A strong warning in a broader context. Placed in the broader context of Mark chapter 12, the story is also a strong warning. Condemnation of hypocrisy. Immediately before observing the widow, Jesus had harshly condemned the teachers of the law for their arrogance, ostentation, and especially for devouring widows' houses, exploiting these helpless women for material gain. The voice of the victim. The widow's act of giving, while a wonderful sacrifice, can also be seen as a tragic testament to the exploitation by the religious and social system of the time. This system created pressure that led the poorest person to surrender her last bit of sustenance. Sharp contrast. The widow was poor in money but rich in heart, dedicated. The teachers of the law were wealthy but hypocritical, greedy. The widow's action was the strongest accusation against the internal corruption of a system that cared only about wealth and external forms, rather than compassion and justice. The widow's mites teaches that true giving is not a financial transaction, but an exchange of faith and love, where the entirety of a gift given from poverty is worth far more than a small part given from abundance. The widow's mites teaches us that what is important about giving is not how much we give from our abundance, but how much we give from what we truly need. The story encourages everyone, regardless of poverty or hardship, to boldly express their generosity and faith, because a small gift offered with a full heart of sacrifice is worth more than any large gift derived from surplus wealth. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on the next exciting content.